Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gavin Major, and this is a review of the British Tier 7 Protectorate aircraft carrier HMS Implacable. Now this is a Tier 6 and 7 game of domination on Sleeping Giant. On the M2 we have an Akatsuki, a Friesland, a Shaw's, a Suzuki, a division consisting of a Charlestown, Massachusetts and the Lexington. Then we also have a Scharnhorst and the Vanguard. So generally on the enemy team, ships with good AA will probably be the Lexington, the Massachusetts, the Friesland, maybe the Shaw's and the Suzuki, but would have to just play it by ear, I guess you could say. So, HMS Implacable is a member of a two-strong class of aircraft carriers, her sister being the Indefatigable. One thing I'm doing is I'm just instantly going back to my friendly ships here to drop fighter support over them, because at the end of the day, that's going to be where their carrier wants to go. And it also looks like we're up against Scharnhorst and Massachusetts down there. Okay, so we're trying for a flanking attack, but we might have to reduce our aircraft count a little bit before we go in there. So, yes, two strong class, HMS Implacable and HMS Indefatigable. Now, I've seen it referenced in multiple sources as either the Implacable class or the Indefatigable class, so I'm not going to pick a side on that one. Now, these were completed in 1944 and initially started off with doing operations against the Tirpitz in Norway, and then after the Tirpitz was sunk by the 617 Squadron, which was the Lancasters with the tall boys, or Grand Slams I think, then they were posted to the British Pacific Theatre. In the British Pacific Theatre, or fleet I should say, they obviously did operations against the Japanese. Now, Indefatigable was hit by a kamikaze aircraft in April 1945, and she survived, and a video regarding that incident has been done by armoured carriers, and will be carded top right now. Now that is 40 minutes long, so I'll also put it on the end screen as well for those of you who are interested in watching that. Hopefully that should be enough lead. What's the DD? Oh, Friesland. Oh boy, this flank's going to be a bit awkward for me to try and work over the Massachusetts and the Friesland. But we are getting a couple of torpedo hits there. So, the Indefatigable survivability in comparison to the other Tier 7 aircraft carriers. Well, what you're looking at is having the second highest HP of 52,200, also the highest torpedo reduction of 13%. In regards to the armour scheme, it's always best to go back to the port and take a look at the armour viewer there. So here we are back in the port, taking a look at the armour scheme of the Implacable. First of all, let's start off with the superstructure. Superstructure, obviously, it's quite big-ish for a carrier, I guess you could say, and it's just covered in 13mm of plating. There's not really much to add. Now, also assigned to the superstructure are a couple of the towers which mount the targeting equipment for the anti-aircraft equipment, but that doesn't really necessarily, but that's probably not going to get hit, as we put it, so we can take that off, but it's just worth noting that can be obviously harvested by HE or low caliber AP, or even through AP over pens. Taking that away, let's move on to the torpedo bulge. It's very small and very focused around the citadel, is the best way to put it, right on the centre of the ships. So it's worth noting, say, if you are trying to run a torpedo run against the Implacable, her very large bow and her very large stern don't have torpedo protection, so that's the best place to probably get a torpedo hit in order to cause flooding. Taking that away, let's have a look at the bow and the stern. Well, first of all, the side plating is 19mm thick, which is capable of resisting 8-inch AP when angled, and also 4-inch HE. So you have got a little bit of protection there. Now your front deck at the front is 25mm thick, so that is capable of resisting 14-inch AP when angled, so potentially you might be able to skip 14-inch rounds off the front deck there, and then the rear deck is only 19mm, or 21mm of plating I should say. Now, so again, that's the same situation, 8-inch AP can bounce off, 4-inch HE won't be going through, is the best way to put it. So we can take off the bow and the stern. Moving on to the upper armour and the armoured deck. So the sides, again, 19mm, so rinse and repeat, 8-inch AP when angled, and 4-inch HE. The deck is more intriguing. You've got a mix here. You've got a mix of 34 to 75mm plating around the outside, and then 76mm plating in the centre. What does this mean? What it means is that your deck can actually resist pretty much all AP if angled. So depending how the shells are coming in, they might skip off, but also what that means is it will resist HE shells up to 8-inch caliber, I guess you could say, around the outside. Not completely certain about the centre, but that might be a bit more resistant to HE. So potentially having HE landing on your deck as plunging fire, it should just cause shatters, and that should be quite good, I guess you could say, because it's not going to be penetrating HE damage. Taking that away, what are we looking at next? Well, let's do the casement armour, which is basically the armoured sections either side of the citadel. 21mm thick is the main armoured belt, which you'll be seeing, and then obviously it has a deck of about 16 to 63mm, obviously depending where it is. Probably that area at the back of the ship where it is up to 63mm is probably going to be the part of the ship where the steering gears and such are located. But generally it's rinse and repeat, 8-inch AP when it comes to the side of the ships when angled, and 4-inch HE will shatter. So that just leaves us with the citadel, and it's big. It's going to be easy to find. If you see a Implacable class broadside on, you should be able to locate this citadel. Aim for the bridge is probably going to be your best bet, but if your shells wander a little bit either side, then it should be able to make its mark, and obviously it is slightly more raised directly under the bridge as well. So citadel is big. Now it does form part of your armoured belt, so obviously the sides of it, 114mm thick, so capable of ricocheting pretty much all AP, so that's some good news potentially if you're angling this, but it's obviously a big thing when you're broadside on, so don't stick your Implacable broadside on if you can help it, and if you've seen Implacable broadside on, it should be almost as comparable to hitting a broadside of a battleship, I guess you could say. You should be able to get some nice AP penetrations and some citadel hits. But yeah, that's the armour scheme of the Implacable. So, moving on to the aircraft and looking at the bombers of the Implacable. These aircraft have the highest HP of 3000. They also have the second slowest speed of 159 knots. That Vanguard's turning. Now, your attack squadron size is only 2 aircraft, whereas your squadron size is 6 aircraft, and they have a detectability of 10 kilometers. I think we're just going to have to take a bomb run on the broadside of the... Oh, well, there's nothing left. Oh, but the Akatsuki is showing his hand. There she is, so we'll just line up on her stern and then come in on her back. Now, when it comes to the restoration time, the longest restoration time of an aircraft of 96 seconds per aircraft. Lowest bomb damage of 5,600, but you do have the highest bomb count and therefore highest HE damage potential from your bombs. Lowest fire chance of only 29%, again due to the number of bombs being dropped. Highest fire, overall fire potential, I should say. Let's drop some bombs here. Again, a nice couple of hits there, and we might continue to harass the poor Akatsuki, simply because he's an easy target for my team to help mop up, I hope. Now, I think we talked all about the bombers, so I'll hold off about talking about the torpedo aircraft until we actually launch some. There she goes, very nice. Moving on to the torpedo aircraft, seeing that the left flank is faltering, so I'm going to start making a move over. There we go. So, the torpedo aircraft. These have the highest HP of 2,700. Furthermore, they are the second fastest at 160 knots. Attack squadron size of 2, overall squadron size of 8 aircraft I should say, and again a detectability of 10 kilometers. Now again they have the longest restoration time of 85 seconds per aircraft. Now lowest torpedo damage as well, so you're not going to be getting lots of damage out of these, and because you're only dropping 1 torpedo per aircraft, the overall torpedo damage potential is also quite low in comparison to the others. Torpedoes again have the shortest range of 2.4 kilometers and the slowest speed. You're looking at 35 knots, so the torpedoes don't necessarily change between all the tiers. I think what I might do, just really lead this shark horse and drop it about there. Don't think we managed to drop in time because the Friesland, there's quite a lot of AA all grouped up there, which is quite awkward. So until I can actually pick off a single target, it's a little bit difficult in order for me to actually engage one. However, the Scharnhorst would have generally appeared to be separating herself from the enemy team, so I might focus the Scharnhorst. In regards to the Implacable's AA rating, what you're looking at is having the second worst AA rating overall, but you do have one of the joint largest AA ranges of 5 kilometers, which is, I guess, quite nice. What are you doing, Scharnhorst? Are you going to turn in? Looks like he is. Okay. Well, we'll focus on the Scharnhorst with a nice bomb run. When it comes to the manoeuvrability of the Implacable, she is the second slowest at 32 knots. Bombs away. She also has the best turn circle of 960 meters, and she is the second slowest rudder shift of 13.5 seconds. Should be able to get another run on the Scharnhorst. Oh, maybe not. This team's been rather too effective. Let's see, we've got 4 aircraft left. We'll just call them back. Torpedo aircraft away. In regards to the concealment of the Implacable, she has the joint worst detectivity by sea of 13.3 kilometers. Furthermore, she has the worst detectivity by air of 9.3 kilometers. In regards to the carrier's consumables, you're looking at having 4 times fighter caps, 600 second duration, and a 40-second reload. Ah, the Friesland is leading the Charles Mattel. I see. We just have to, unfortunately, run from this one. But maybe we can make a move onto the Charles Mattel, which has separated itself off. And in general, we need to obviously just keep our carrier moving. Also, you have the standard damage control party for an aircraft carrier, so that's the 60-second duration and 90-second reload. In regards to the consumables on the actual aircraft, obviously you have the engine cooldown, which has a 10-second duration, 5-second duration, I have to say, an 80-second reload. I think we are going to have to quickly loop it back around and see if we can catch the Charles Mattel. There's one. Ah, Neptune speared. Oh well. No, I can't exactly go after the Friesland, so I kind of just need to keep moving, unfortunately. Oh, the Friesland's gone. Brilliant. That means I can focus at Massachusetts. Well, that is most certainly going to be happening. Continuing with the aircraft, obviously you get patrol fighters times 3, 60-second duration and a 10-second reload. Also evasive maneuvers, which reduces incoming damage to your aircraft by 10%, 50% I should say, and that lasts 10 seconds and 150-second reload. You get 2 of those. Bombs away. Looks like the Massachusetts is slowed right down. Still getting a few there. And now we use evasive maneuvers to make sure we get a second pass on the Massachusetts, because he's a very prime target. And we'll also get the torpedo aircraft going too. So, in regards to the modules and the commander, it's always best to go back to the port and I'll explain why I've done what I've done. So looking at the modules chosen for the Implacable, first of all, first slot. Choices, as we've seen before, you can choose between secondary battery or restoration time. Go for the restoration time due to that very long restoration time that British carriers have. Moving on to the second slot, in this case I've obviously gone for the AA range. I'm trying to push the AA range out to improve my anti-aircraft defence. The alternative would be most likely to go for the HP of the aircraft. I can see that being a lot more tempting at this tier, and personally I am contemplating switching this myself. The reason being is obviously at tier 7 you're going to be interfering with tier 6, 7 and legendary tier ships, and quite a few of those ships do have very good anti-aircraft capabilities, and therefore having a bit more HP is going to improve the survivability of your aircraft. For your third slot, you can target acquisition systems is pretty much a useless trait for an aircraft carrier. Spotting range, well, that's only going to affect your carrier, not your aircraft. Torpedo detectability range, that's only going to affect your carrier. And if there's torpedoes coming in your carrier, usually you're flying your aircraft 90% of the time, so you're not going to be able to do anything. Guaranteed range of acquisition, if something's that close to your carrier, you've made a mistake potentially. So I think generally for the third slot, you're better off going for that concealment system, especially considering the poor concealment of the Implacable in comparison to the other tier 7 carriers. For the fourth slot, quite a few options here, and I think they're all generally some reasonable choices. The secondary mod probably is a pass, in all honesty. I don't think secondary builds are really where you want to be going. AA damage, obviously that will improve your AA defense, so that is quite a good choice if you are expecting to come under quite a few AA attacks, and I have contemplated that myself. I have gone for Air Groups Module 3, the reason being is it improves my return speed to any aircraft that do survive, or any aircraft that I drop during a safety drop will return back to the carrier at 25% quicker. Furthermore, it also increases the HP of my aircraft. Generally, as I've kind of said before, due to the amount of AA at this tier, that does kind of obviously help with your longevity of your aircraft. Alternatively, you can go for the aircraft cruise speed, try and get your aircraft to zip around the map a little bit more, but at the end of the day, you should really be probably focusing on maybe like carrier position if you can. Obviously it's still a good choice, and maybe you could go for that, but I'd rather go for the HP, in all honesty, is my choice on that one. When it comes to the upgrades, you've got a couple of upgrades. So obviously as a base aircraft you get the Barracudas, which are very similar to the ones that you have on the Furious, so you'll probably already be used to them. The aircraft that you can upgrade to are the Spearfish, and the Spearfish are prototype aircraft where a couple of prototypes were built but none were actually ever put into service or full-time production. So you can obviously improve your bombers by improving the hit points and their speed, and you can obviously do exactly the same with the torpedo aircraft. Generally, I'd be tempted to take the 2 aircraft module upgrades first, and then look at doing the hull upgrade later on, because the hull upgrade only gives you HP and rudder shift, and generally you're probably going to be aiming to stay undetected, so you shouldn't be getting hit, and it's only 2,900 hit points, so it's not a lot really. The rudder shift is a nice upgrade, it helps your maneuverability, but it is what it is, and generally with aircraft carriers it's all about the aircraft. So generally I would probably say, depending on your choice, I think I would probably go torpedo aircraft first. The reason being is that torpedo aircraft are a lot less subjective to RNG, so you can honestly almost guarantee it's all down to you on whether the torpedo hits, is the best way to put it. There's not so much RNG when it comes into that. Then probably the bombers, as the bombers are quite subject to RNG because you have this reticle and you're just kind of hoping that the bombs land in the right places at the right time. So then I'd probably go for the bombers, and then probably last but not least I'd then go for the upgrade hull, and so we'll have the aircraft carrier fully upgraded for this review. So here we are taking a look at the commander choice. Now if you've watched my Hermes and my Furious video, you're probably already familiar with this choice, and I think because the aircraft carriers generally the traits of them don't change that much between the tiers, I think you can pretty much have the same commander build on all of your carriers. So in this case, obviously his base traits quite helpful, reducing your air detectability, which is very helpful in this case because the Implacable does have quite poor air detectability. Pushing out my AA range, try and basically push off the enemy, and also improve my AA damage as well. Alternatively, I could increase my damage, but I think more damage over distance is generally better than just more damage in general. Obviously, you can improve your torpedo speed, and that is quite tempting as always because the British torpedoes are only doing 35 knots, so pushing up to 39 knots will probably assist in number of hits you'll get. But if you do go for this trait, if you do have the Event Commander Space Fishy, I'd probably recommend having him on top. Just try and focus on torpedo speed if you're going to go down that route, but generally I think you can justify this one as well. When it comes to the second trait, I go one-way ticket. Try and make those torpedo hits count, and when they do count, make sure they hit hard. The reason being is obviously, like I say, torpedoes are a lot less subjective to RNG. Alternatively, you can go for Stronghold, reduces incoming damage to your aircraft carrier, but generally not going to be taking a lot of damage until late game when you're usually generally being spotted by aircraft, or if you've messed up a little bit and positioned your aircraft carrier in a poor position. On Alert, I think is generally a poor trait for the third slot. The reason being is the incoming damage or incoming shells indicator is pretty useless because you'll be in your aircraft 90% of the time, so that kind of leaves you down to out of sight or hidden threat. Both of these basically reduce the detectability of the chosen aircraft and improve the HP, so generally it's just down to which one you want to focus on. I decide on torpedo aircraft, again just because that lack of RNG means they're going to be my largest damage dealing aircraft, or the ones that I have the best control over. You could go for the bombers if you so desire. For the fourth slot, I've gone for Look at Me Now. The reason being is that reduces my sea detectability, I should say. Now, obviously, because the Implacable has quite poor detectability, that helps. That gives me a bit more wiggle room behind my team. I could go for Burn Baby Burn, but again, those bombs are a bit hit and miss, I guess you could say, is the best way to put it, which is the RNG, and so I'd rather go for a bit more manoeuvrability behind my team if I can. With the legendary trait, I think both choices are generally good choices. Fully packed, especially at tier 7, will give you an additional evasive manoeuvres consumable in both your squadrons. It'll also give you additional engine boost, additional fighter drops, additional fighter cap as well on your carrier. So I think at tier 7, fully packed is a lot more tempting, and personally I might even actually switch over for that for this review. Actually, I think I will do that. Alternatively, the Volt does improve the HP of your aircraft. Again, that's quite a good trait as well, because at tier 7 your aircraft are going to get mulched up by AA, so having a bit more HP is going to improve their survivability. So actually I think I'm going to stick with the Volt, but I think at tier 7 you can very easily justify fully packed as well. In regards to inspirations, I've gone for the two things that I've kind of like focused my carrier around. So Concealment, reducing my sea detectability by using Swirski, and pushing out my AA range using King. So generally I'm trying to reduce my detectability and improve my AA range, so I can basically not get detected by ships, and therefore the only thing that should maybe be finding me should be aircraft, and if they do find me, I'm going to try and keep them at arm's reach if I can, or at least make it a bit more painful for them to come in and attack my aircraft carrier. However, the AA rating of the Implacable isn't the greatest. Anyway, so that's my command build for this review. Well, welcome back. So, review's all done, I hope, and I hope it's all gone okay. So let's crack on with the actual game. Going to be focusing Massachusetts because we know she's just damage controlled due to the 2 fires I set, which have magically disappeared. So by the time I got back here, the damage control party should be on cooldown, so we'll leave that plenty. And we'll hope for some flooding, and we'll just record that and get the HE bombers going. And in fact, I think we can actually start moving our carrier back. Oh, 2 hits, but no flooding, unfortunately. So yeah, we're going after the... It looks like Massachusetts is on fire, thanks to the Suzuki. So even though I haven't got the damage over time, the reset in the damage control party in Massachusetts has obviously been favourable. Oh no, it looks like she's actually repairing. So bombs away. And because the Charles Mattel's off to the left, we're going to chance it there and see what we get. Nice.
We've destroyed an enemy battleship and taken the lead.
Right, next priority target, shores of Charlestown. I think it would be alright going for either. I mean, the shores could do resetting, but the Charlestown's the weakest, so maybe we can put the Charlestown under some pressure, I hope. At least that's the plan. Maybe I might have to keep the shore spotted. I'm going to start moving my carrier up again. Time to use those engine cooldowns now that we're so far back. There goes the Charlestown Tower, I believe. So we do have to go for the shores. Because of a low aircraft count, I will use evasive manoeuvres to try and reduce the incoming damage, and then henceforth try and recover as many of these aircraft as possible. Hopefully that's led it enough. Maybe 2 hits, that should be enough to assist. Yeah, there you go, Okachov's done the final work. Right, time to find the aircraft carrier. So now, amusingly, what you'll probably notice this game is I've lost a lot more torpedo aircraft in comparison to my bombers. My torpedo squadrons have been heavily diminished, whereas my bomber squadrons, I've still got enough to send off a full load of aircraft. So the bombers are certainly doing their work this game, and we're nearly one on points and time. I think she's gone behind this island. Let's see if we can spot her one last time. Use the engine cooldown just because we can. I'm sure she's going to be over here. Can we spot her before the end of the game? I think we're going to win on points. Well, we'll win on points, unfortunately. Well, Nora's quite pleased with that game. I hope I didn't mess up the review while I was going through, but if I did, I'll have to capture that in post-processing. 60,000 damage from 7 torpedo hits and 25 bomb hits, causing 1 flooding and 4 fires, getting the 1 kill on the Massachusetts, just finishing her off, shooting down only 4 aircraft at the start with my patrol fighters. But it usually gets a bit awkward to try and use the patrol fighters and focus the enemy later in the game. It always gets a bit awkward. There are 6 detection ribbons as well. Team-wise, mid-table, so I can't really complain about that. Generally doing what I could for my team, and hopefully that's rewarded me enough, I guess you could say. Economy-wise, walking away with a profit of 130,000 credits, and with a premium count and a rare credit booster, so overall making a decent profit at the end of the day there. All in all, Implacable, I think she generally is a good aircraft carrier. It's really just down to the matchmaking, I find. If you get games where there's lots of AA, you'll lose a lot of aircraft, and because of that poor restoration time, you'll find yourself running out of aircraft a lot quicker than the enemy aircraft carrier will. So maybe focusing purely on HP of the aircraft might be another route that I might do on the Implacable in future. But generally, if you get like an average game with an average amount of good AA ships and poor AA ships, you can kind of pick on those poor AA ships and focus on doing that. And it's all about working around the enemy team. Like with the Friesland, her presence very dangerous to me. As soon as the Friesland was gone, however, I could then work over the Massachusetts, even though the Massachusetts has reasonable AA capability. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this, and if you have, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Enjoy this content, feel free to subscribe, and down in the description, command build and modules if you want to refer to them. Link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, and the email address to the channel if you want to send in any of your own game captures. Until next time, I'm the guy from Major, and back to the pool.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down. I guess this is the life. Now, hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major.